This bill's a big problem. Basically, it comes down to special interests and conflict of interest. Really, the big losers here are the users, are the consumers and the drivers. And I think it just goes to show how lawmakers and government don't understand platforms.
California passes landmark bill requiring contract workers to be labeled as employees. Here's the problem with this. There are just countless reports that the average amount of time spent from a Uber or Lyft driver on a weekly basis, I think it's less than 10 hours a week. What you're finding is that a lot of these drivers are incremental income, right? That's why they're doing it is, hey, I've got a few extra hours. Let me go hop in my car and drive some people around, make some money. There are obviously people that do this full time as a living and are putting in many, many hours a week, probably many of them more than 40 hours a week. But the average amount of time is an order of magnitude less than that. And it really speaks to, especially when you think about Uber and Lyft going into more suburban markets that don't have as much demand that would support just having tens or hundreds of full-time drivers on the platform. Certainly you see that in the more metropolitan areas, with still a good amount of passive kind of doing 5 or 10 or 15 hours a week here or there to make some incremental income. But this bill's a big problem. And I think it just goes to show how lawmakers and government don't understand platforms and actually all of the value that platforms are bringing to society, both consumers and people that have a car and want to make incremental income. It basically completely rips those people out of the equation and makes it so much harder for them to actually now make incremental income. So who are they trying to protect, right? What is the motivation? What's the explanation for these people, these lawmakers, to try and do this? And basically it comes down to special interests and conflict of interest. The establishment is not happy with this. You have labor unions that are sprouting up here and trying to pick a fight. If you think about where did these two labor classifications come from? They are 50 plus years old. The idea of you're either an employee or you're a contractor. I would actually argue if you wanted to do this properly, there should actually be a new classification of labor code for the incremental workers, doing things a few hours here or there in this gig economy, right? And then if you actually look at how contractor law is set up and employer law is set up, actually neither of them conform properly to the structure that is taking place if you are, say, a gig worker putting in incremental hours, maybe in a few different jobs, or maybe you're putting in a few hours on Uber and a few hours on Lyft, right? And so obviously no lawmaker is going to champion creating a new classification of labor. And so then they just try and ram a round peg into a square hole. And it's unfortunate. And really, yes, the platforms are a loser here, and they're going to have to spend more money on legal fees, and they're going to have to try to challenge this. But really, the big losers here are the users, are the consumers and the drivers. It really doesn't make any sense here. And, there have been lawsuits sponsored by drivers to try and get certain rights and things like that. The problem is the issues that the drivers bring up in these lawsuits actually aren't covered by being classified as an employee, right? The biggest complaint that drivers have is two things. One, the fees that Uber and Lyft take from the drivers. And two, disciplinary action taken by the platform, right? So if you're kicked off and you're a driver, or if you get a low star rating, or if a passenger gives you a low star rating, what's the process to refute that? And preserve a good standing on the platform. Right now, there really is no third-party arbitrator that you could escalate an issue to for good cause. And just because a driver could be classified as an employee doesn't give them any further protection. All this really does is say now that Uber has to pay more money on benefits and workers' comp and insurance and just other payroll taxes. So there you go. There's California's motivation. They get more taxes out of it. The real protection about saying, hey, when can Uber raise its take rate? When can they decide to kick a driver off the platform? Those are the real concerns of the drivers. Does this solve those? Absolutely not. Hi, this is Alex Mozed. Thanks for joining us on Winner Take All. If you enjoyed the content today, which I bet you did, please comment, subscribe, and definitely message me on Twitter when we're doing live streams. Also, please note, all opinions expressed about stocks or public companies on the show are exactly that, opinions. This is not investment advice. Don't act on it. WisdomTree licensed Applico's Platform Insights data product to aid in the creation of the Platt ETF. Thanks for joining us.